Hey everybody, this is Steve, and I'm going to be doing a quick presentation on PowerPoint. And I know that some of you are really wanting this quickly, so I'm doing it somewhat quickly at this point. There possibly will be some mistakes made. You might even hear the phone ring. And so I'm going to do the best I can at this point to try to get this out to you so that we can get started. So PowerPoint is something that I've been using for, oh my goodness, for well over 10 years, maybe well over 15 years. And you're going to find out in this particular presentation, many people all over the planet use it. So it's very, very common, and you should get proficient at it. I'm going to say this once now, and I'm going to say it again. It's just like anything with respect to the feng shui techniques that we're teaching you. You have to practice. This can't be just given to you. There is some skill to it, I guess, but basically it's very simple, but you need to be pointed in the right direction. So this is going to be part one, and you're going to find out in part one, I'm going to give you an assignment. And the assignment is to create your first PowerPoint slide deck. Maybe you've done one already before, but for some of you, this is your first, and it's going to be 5 slides long. That's it. And I'm going to show you at the end of this presentation what I'd like you to do on each slide. For example, inserting a picture. For example, changing the text. For example, using transition. So anyway, it's not going to be tough. But if you don't do that to start with, we really can't proceed any further. You need to make sure you have PowerPoint on your computer. I would probably have to say at this point, 95% of you out there have it, because almost all computers now come with it. Again, it's sort of standard. So make sure you can find PowerPoint and can bring it up. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started so that you can understand what I'm going to ask. Again, there's going to be some questions, and that is totally understandable. Now, there are several reasons why PowerPoint is used so much. It is the most familiar use of a presentation tool in the world. And it's considered by most people to be very easy to use. And I hope after this session and the next one, you're going to start to feel that way too. But even after the second session, you're going to have to practice. And it's really, again, this is not brain surgery at all. And you're going to be able to figure out how to make it prettier and better all the time. A lot of folks with their computers, they feel like they don't have any choice either. So they just automatically use PowerPoint. Now, I'm going to give you some tips about what to do and what not to do. Once you get into this and you start doing this for clients, it's to your benefit to use things like giving a story instead of just throwing out a bunch of statistics. I know that I have been guilty of that myself sometimes. I know that. Sometimes I need to give you that information. And then, of course, when I send you the PDF, you have it in front of you. But anyway, you want to try to limit the amount of words on a page and limit the number of statistics. So why should we use PowerPoint? Well, it really does help to engage the audience quite a bit. But again, if you have a bunch of words on there, they're going to tune you out a little bit. I do know that. And I am guilty of that sometimes. But it does engage the audience. It's something for them to look at while you're talking. It is very visual, to me, very important, especially in the topic that Lisa and I talk about, feng shui. So it's very visual. I definitely recommend you to use a lot of photos, a lot of pictures. It keeps you organized. When I'm doing a presentation, if I just look at the slide, I automatically am sort of keyed into what I want to then say. I've done it so many times. So it keeps you organized. It keeps you on a timeline. And of course, you can then share the contents afterwards, whether you've recorded it on a Zoom. But in our case, we send you a PDF with the slides. That's a very important aspect if you're going to be doing a lot of presentations, especially. You probably know this, but sending a PowerPoint presentation to somebody takes up an awful lot of file storage. So you want to make it or take it and put it into a PDF before you send it to anybody. It's much smaller and much easier to move. A little bit of info on this. There are a ton of people in the world that use PowerPoint. According to this statistic that I pulled up, over 500 million people are PowerPoint users. So to be unique, it can be very difficult. So if those 500 million PowerPoint users are using the same templates that I'm going to show you, there's really no differentiation between them. So I'm going to show you another way to make your templates, your slides look a little bit unique and therefore set you apart a little bit. You don't have to do that. You can do what I'm doing right now. I'm using the standard white background, but I'm going to show you how to change the design to something much more colorful. And again, there are a lot of templates that you can pick from PowerPoint without doing anything extra. But being unique can help. And so, again, I want you to at least start thinking about that direction. There are quite a few presentations that are done daily. Again, I want to push to you the idea of being a little different. So I like using things like transition and animation, as you probably have noticed, where I have a picture coming in or appearing all of a sudden, or from slide to slide, it's a split screen. So, I like to make it a little bit different. I feel like a lot of the people that attend my presentations are not terribly sure what to expect next, you might say. So being different can be very helpful to you. There are a lot of teachers out there that are using PowerPoint. I wished when I taught that I had this at my fingertips. This would have made my life so much easier instead of what I used to use. I used to use overheads, if you've ever seen that. So my wife would tell you that I would bring my overheads home every night, wash them off, and then do the next lesson on my slides, on my overhead slides. And then I'd bring it in and I'd do my next one so that, it was ready. The average PowerPoint seems to run for 250 minutes. I can't believe that. That is just automatically ridiculous. Your PowerPoint should never run that long, never. There's no way you can keep an attendee to actually focus on something that long. There's just no way. So you really should be keeping it probably no longer than 60 minutes, even though I know that we at times break that rule. So if that's the case, that's ridiculous. The average PowerPoint slide has around 40 words. That also is too many. And again, I know I've broken that a few times. But try not to do that. You want to try to use more photos and only key points with your text. So really, really use pictures. I promise you, it'll help you a great deal to get your point across to people. Too many words on a slide, I promise they're going to lose their focus, and you don't want to do that. So you need to get used to using Google or Yahoo or whatever you're using to come up with photos that are going to help you in your presentations. When you do an evaluation for somebody in the near future, you're probably going to take some photos with your camera. So you're going to get used to downloading your photos off your camera to your laptop. And then you're going to then bring them up, maybe one per slide, maybe more per slide. and you're going to then tell them a story about what they need to handle. Okay. That's the way most people do things nowadays. But if you're just going to be picking up things off of Google to tell a story, to give a point, you need to get good at doing that also. So if you notice up at the top here, I typed in Google front yard landscaping, and it brought up what you see below. Okay. And one of those photos, I'm going to just go through showing you how to download it to my computer so I can use it later. So when I clicked on images, all these images come up, page after page after page, that are front yard landscaping. I happen to like this one. So if you click on that photo on that page, it'll come up like this to the right-hand side. So I'm going to try to download that picture so that I can use it later. I mean, it's got fantastic contrast. I'm sure you would agree. So you put your cursor over that, then you right-click down at the bottom, and it takes you through the process of saving it. But you want to make sure you know where you've saved it. On most computers and on my laptop, it automatically allows me to place it on my desktop so that I can find it pretty easily, quickly. Now, when you're not using it, you might want to put it somewhere else, a different file. But that's where it usually puts it, on the desktop. As I said before, I'm using a blank screen at this point. It's just the automatic default for this presentation. So if you have other colorful choices, you can really make it look a lot better. Often I will use Google to find intriguing backgrounds that are not templates that PowerPoint allows me to use. But first, let's talk about the actual taskbar. You're going to see several taskbars, and really two of them especially are very pivotal to you. Number one is home. You can see home is underlined. That's what's going to come up first. So we're going to talk a lot about the home taskbar, and then the one next to it, insert. You will at times be using design. You want to change the template to something more colorful that is supplied to you by PowerPoint. We'll get to that in a second. Transitions allows you to go from slide to slide a little differently instead of just popping up. I like using it, but not everybody does. Animations we're going to be using a little bit too, and again, that's going to be part of your assignment also. That's really it for this particular a look at the taskbar. Again, design will allow you to change to a different template. And if you click on that, PowerPoint will bring up a lot of choices. Some of them you might like, some of them you might hate. I use basically 4 or 5 of them consistently, especially if I'm in a hurry. Okay, but some of them I just don't like at all. It just don't look right. And you'll find out that every one of these designs that you see down there, if you select new slide, will give you a lot of different choices. I use blank slide a lot because I like to bring in photos, and I like to put my text in particular locations myself. But if you want to, you might as well play around with it. Some of them are going to be befores and afters, and they'll have locations for photos and stuff. They'll try to lead you through it. And that's probably not a bad way to start. So again, there's the new slide. I also like to do backgrounds myself so that I don't just use the same old as everybody else. Again, there's particular ones on here that I use a lot. But I've gotten to the point now that I like to go to Google and ask for PowerPoint backgrounds, which they'll give you for free. There are, again, tons of them out there. And I've gotten to the point where I sort of like the blurred pictures. I don't want the picture to be the background picture to be the focus. So I'm using more blurred backgrounds, and I'll show you a few. So I find them useful. It makes my templates unique. You might want to try that, or you might not. That's okay. So if you do, you also copy that blurred background, maybe to your desktop, and then you insert it. And often you have to extend it to make sure it fills the full screen if that's what you want. For example, this is filling the full screen. That's a blurred background. I find when I put text on this, it stands out well, but again, it's unique. Here's one, a blurred background that I use once in a while that I have not extended. So it's very simple just to extend. You take your cursor over to the left-hand part and just pull it over. And then you go to the right-hand side and get rid of the white on that side by pulling it over to the right. So you can insert and extend and with your blurred backgrounds if you like the idea. Here's one of my favorite blurred backgrounds. I should probably get to understand why. It's an interior picture that really works well. I've got blurred office, for example. I have blurred exteriors and blurred interiors. That again just makes it a little different looking. A background like this can make the text stand out nicely and make it maybe a little more interesting for your clients. You don't have to do this right away, but I just want to give you some ideas. So again, they can be very helpful to you to make yourself more unique. Here's another semi-blurred one. And you can see that I can bring up text very easily. As you notice, I'm using animation here to bring those in. That's animation. There's a lot of different animations that you might like. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So again, that's a semi-blurred. Now back to the taskbar. Again, home is underlined right now on the left-hand side. You're going to be using home a lot. You'll be going back and forth to home a lot. And if you look at home, you can do an awful lot of different things. Again, there's the design. And I'm going to pick this particular template. I use this template a lot anyway. Okay, so let me show that again. I'm going to hit design and I'm going to then choose this template, and that does this. It gives me a background that looks like that. I would like you to do that for this short assignment as part of the task. So back to home again. You're going to use design sometimes. You're going to use transitions. You're going to use animations once in a while. And I'd like you to get decent at that before we even talk about a part 2 recording or get together. So if you look at this right now, again, I'm on the home taskbar. And I want to point certain things out in this area. Not everybody likes the default font. And some people like to use bold. Some people like to underline things. But if you notice, here's where you change the font. The font right now is set for Georgia. My favorite fonts might not be your favorite fonts. I like using Georgia ones. But you also might want to change the size of the font. And this is where you do it. Again, on the home taskbar. So those are really important items that you need to at least feel comfortable with before we can go much further. So here's insert again, and we're going to be using insert a lot for inserting photos and inserting text. And again, don't forget new slides. You can add slide after slide after slide. I like to use blank slides a lot because I don't really want to do a before and after with two photos next to each other. I don't really want some of the other choices they give me. So you need to play around with that. This is what comes up when you hit new slide. This is just some of the choices. As you can see, the first choice below office theme is a title slide. I hardly ever use that. But you can also use a title and content. Notice all those little photos in there. You can put a photo, you can put a graph, and so forth. And again, there are comparisons and all that kind of stuff. If you see down on the left, blank slide, I prefer to start that way. But some of you are going to like some of these other possibilities. They might be just what you're looking for. So it's no big deal. Whatever makes it feel comfortable for you. So back at the home taskbar, I hit insert. It brings me to here. And so I want to put a lot of attention on the insert taskbar for you. You can insert pictures off your computer. They'll even give you some choices that are quite often already loaded for you. But I never use those. I always use pictures that I have found that tell my story. You're also going to use the text box. Those are the two that you're going to use time after time after time. The other ones, just forget for now, okay? Don't put too much worry or emphasis on the other stuff. You can actually get by without using any of it. So back to here. Again, those are the ones that we're going to use a lot of. We're back at home now. As you can see, it's underlined. You can see in this one, insert was underlined. That's the taskbar. So you go back to home when you want to maybe change the font or change the size of the text or change the design or do a transition or an animation. Okay, so you're going to go back and forth between insert and home quite a lot. So here's home. Now this is the second part of the home taskbar that you're going to see. We're not going to bother with any of that. And once you get to be a pro, you know, the second part out to the right, there are going to be some ideas there that are going to be helpful to you. Right now, you are not ready for that. So the insert taskbar, once again, here's what it looks like. You can see it's underlined. So you can certainly insert pictures. So if you hit on pictures, you see in gray there. What comes up below it is insert picture from this device, which is primarily what you're going to do. Any stock images that they have, and maybe any online pictures. I use only this device because I feel like my pictures do what I want them to do. So here's, again, the text bar. You might have already inserted a picture on a slide. You now want to type in some words. Again, you don't want to go crazy with the words, but you hit on text bar, and that will allow you to type in some text. So you're going to, once you hit that, Once you hit the text box, go to the slide with your cursor and just click. And that's where your text will start. Take your cursor and go to your slide and just click on it. And that is where you'll be able to start typing. So that's going to be the best way for you to start. You can actually limit how long the text will be, and you're going to have to play with that. So we're going to get together for a second part, but I need you to do a short assignment. Now, if you don't do this, we really can't do much more. So you're going to create your first PowerPoint presentation. I just want 5 slides. But on each slide, you're going to be asked to do something a little different. For example, one of them, I would like you to make sure that you change from a blank white background to picking one of the templates. Okay? So I want you to try different designs. Here's another PowerPoint background that I found on Google. I like it. So you can see we're on the home taskbar. To do a template, you hit design, you pick whichever one you want. I don't care for this first assignment. Pick any of them. Then to get 4 more slides, you're going to hit new slide. So you should have 5 slides. 5 slides. The first slide can easily be just a title that this is your PowerPoint. Put your name on it if you want to. Give it a name. So the assignment that I'd like you to do is, again, create a 5-page PowerPoint slide deck. And you're going to want to save it, of course. Add a different photo on at least 2 pages. If you want to put a photo on all 5 of them, fantastic. If you want to put more than 1 photo on a slide, fantastic. But at least put a different photo on 2 pages of the 5. I want you to do a transition at least 1 time. So whether you do the transition from the title page to the second slide, whatever. You want to do a transition for every page, a different one, fantastic. You can do a split, you can do a shape or whatever, but you need to play with transition. You find transition, you find it on the home page, the home taskbar. It's to the right of home. I'd also like you to use a different font and text size on 1 or more pages. 1 or more pages. And again, you find that on home. I'd like you to also change your text color at least 1 time on 1 or more pages. And I would like you to do at least 1 animation, okay, on a slide. Maybe you're bringing in a picture by bringing it from the top or the bottom, or it just appears or whatever. Animation is also, along with transition, on the home page. Then I want you to save it, and I want you to show it to me. And if I don't see that, I mean, we can't proceed any further. So I hope that made sense to y'all. It's a start. It's about all we can do right now is start, and you need to play. There's no other way to do this. You need to play.